Hi, I'm Kimberly Lane.
I'm Sonia Jante.
And I'm Jonathan Ward, and together we're unlocking leadership. We're three experienced coaches with very different disciplines. And in every episode, we take a question from a real client and provide key insights to address their challenge from our three different perspectives. It's a holistic approach to understanding the challenges and opportunities. So let's get to it. Our question today is from Doug in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Doug asks, I'm the CEO of a recently acquired firm putting together my leadership team. There's a clear gap around communication skills between the team I've recruited and the legacy leaders I've inherited. What's the best way to bridge the gap for the legacy leaders? Kimberly, what advice do you have for Doug?
Great question, Doug. And it's a challenging one too, I have to admit. So you've got legacy leaders and you've got your own team that you've recruited, right? And you're trying to look how somehow to bridge the connection, collaboration, communication of that team. So I kind of would tend to say, let's do something together to build that collaboration communication. So every CEO needs a leadership learning and development strategy, right? Learning is about what do we know? Development is about who I am. So, and that's a key factor because the development's more about emotional growth for your, or personal growth, emotional growth, social skills growth, if you will, which only can enhance that communication and collaboration and also create an emotional bond amongst all your leaders. So, there was an interesting article that I was reading from Vistage stating that the way to do that leadership development, leadership learning is typically a training, a seminar, something like that. Great. However, the beauty of what you're going to be able to accomplish with your executive team, your legacy leaders, and your new recruit teams is having some kind of team dynamic where there is mentoring, coaching, some facilitator for communication and collaboration, and then having actual individual coaching as a next step for each one of them on that particular issue, right? Because then you want to, I think it's the 10, 20, 70 rule, 10 of learning like a seminar, 20% of their time through a coaching program, and then 70% of the time actually instrumentally executing that, whether it's in team meetings, executive meetings. It wouldn't hurt to have also an offsite once a quarter since it's relatively new, but anything you can get them connecting together and sharing a shared experience and also vulnerable enough to communicate. But I think even your recruited leaders could probably benefit from development as well. And there's so many great tools out there. There's a great EQI assessment that I like to use with my clients. It gives you highlights on 15 top emotional skills, and it ranks you as how you compare to other leaders, and very powerful in that part of the development, which is once we understand ourselves better, we can certainly understand each other and communicate better. So that's where I would start, Doug. What do you think, Sonia or Jonathan?
Jonathan, I'll let you go.
Well, it's a great question. Part of me, of course, when I look at the communication skills, I'd like to dig deeper into what aspect of communication do you want everybody to hear more about? Is it around communicating a message? Is it around listening skills, things like that? Those are all areas which can require a lot of deep dive and further development. One thing that I might suggest is if you're working with a team that's come from a legacy group is to maybe think about the kind of environment those people were in. They're going to need some time to kind of understand how the new way is going to work. They've gotten used to functioning in a system that operated a certain way, and now you're creating a new system for them. So what are the expectations as you're bringing in these new executives? They're being hired. I'm assuming you're using some sort of like competency-based hiring process where you're hiring people who are going to act a certain way. And I think having the legacy team be part of that selection process and understanding how that's going to work and what this is going to look like will be one way to help drive that practice. But I would certainly add on to what Kimberly was saying. You're going to need a chance to kind of sit down with a facilitator who's going to help you take a look at it from an outside perspective and kind of give you the out-of-body experience to tell you how the communication's actually going on in the group there, and then give you some things to practice with. But I think it could be, there's all kinds of really interesting tools around that, how you deal with conflict that's going on, how you build trust within the team. But that's my advice, I think, is to really think about what you're trying to model and to help the other people see what needs to change in the new environment. Sonia?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you both have said. And one of the areas that I find interesting is if you're the new CEO and you're putting together the team, you probably started filling in people into the team based on your understanding of where there were gaps or where there were areas that you needed to develop. And so the thing that I'm curious about is, if you were to define, maybe the good thing is just define what are the gaps. Is it that one group is very strategic and the other one is very tactical? Is one group very concise and clear and direct, and the other group is verbose and doesn't get to the point? As the CEO, when you came on board and you started building your new team, you probably identified certain areas that were going to be important. And the key thing here in terms of communication is being able to understand where the legacy team was and where your new team is going. And so one of the things that I often see happen is that there might be a focus in terms of what they're communicating about, whether it's strategic or tactical, or the way that they communicate and how they use each other's time. So people that tend to come from other companies, maybe from the places that you're recruiting, maybe used to being more concise, more direct, more clear, whatever it is. And the other group, because they've been working together for a long time, may have the opportunity to have more conversations, be more verbose and all of that. It would be ideal if you had, if you will, whether it's the HR business partner that's focused on talent and development, or you had an outside consultant come in and sort of do like a quick 360 around certain skill sets, specifically on the communications. And then at that point in time, identify whether they would grow faster by having, direct coaching, or would they grow faster by having an integrated meeting in which there would be exercises in which they could be practicing and experiencing different things, so that they can have the opportunity to realize, oh, I can do that. I think that's a big deal when you've got people that are coming in that are new, that you think are being selected because they're the future, and you don't want to be thinking of yourself as just the past. So that's the first thoughts that came to me about communication, legacy, new team. Those were the first thoughts that I had.
Yeah, I thought too, just, putting them all on a deserted island and have them all build a boat and be able to sail back. And that's the one way to get along, right? So, but, I think it's only about culture. Kind of what you guys were alluding to is the fact that your legacy leaders are coming from a certain culture, right? And maybe it wasn't transparent, or maybe it was highly transparent, and your recruiting leaders aren't used to that environment. But clearly, as a CEO, you need to define what you want your culture of communication to be and share that with the collective group, right? And then put whether it's learning, training, development, coaching in place to support that, right? So I think it's really clear to have that open discussion with the big team about what your communication expectations are and the culture you want to create. That's going to be trickling down, because once you set that foundation with your leadership team, it'll clearly come down within your culture. So a facilitator, mentoring and coaching are all great tools. So.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I was thinking about too was that there's with this legacy team, the chances are they're probably the remnants of a larger team, and that the other people were let go at some point. And so these folks may be feeling a level of insecurity that they were kept on for a good reason, whether it's because they had critical skills or knowledge that you absolutely need to move the organization forward. But there a potential retention risk, I think, is one of the things to be thinking about, because they may be worried that they're on thin ice. And so you need to go out of your way to prove they're going to be watching you to make sure that your actions are consistent with the words that you're saying. If you're talking about being open, honest, direct as the kind of culture you want to create, you've got to make sure that you don't shoot the messenger whenever anybody brings you challenging news. So.
Or even, and I think another point to add to that is, what kind of culture would they like to see collectively? So they're part of the process of creating a new culture and a new solution. So having to be a part of that too.
The other thing to think about that is true, or at least I'm finding it to be true, is in this hybrid work environment, if you're having to do more communication in this kind of fashion, there might be some things that are going to work better from a communication level than you might have in the past. You can't go on and on and on. You need to be able to get direct to the point, be better at giving analogies, painting pictures, that kind of thing. So there might be an opportunity where you would be able to bring the team together and say, let's all work on, honing in our skills for this, and then helping them in the new environment, potentially, because if that's what they're going to have to be doing in the future, they may have to do that as well. All right. Well, thank you, Doug, from Green Bay, Wisconsin, for your question today. We hope you, our viewers and listeners, learned how to bridge communication skills for the leadership team. To our listeners, if you like the content we shared today, please like this episode and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unlocking Leadership-AskTheCoaches.com. We look forward to reading your reviews. You can also find Unlocking Leadership-Ask the Coaches on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. If you have a leadership question or would like to reach out to one of our coaches, please email us at info@unlockingleadership-askthecoaches.com. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today. Tune in next time to find the keys to unlocking your best leadership.